morning, viewers, and welcome to another edition of the Market Review. It's a Tuesday morning, 9th of February, 2021, and we'll be discussing another interesting topic as it has to do with activities in the financial and capital markets related to the economy. We're looking at opportunities for scaling up the commodities exchange ecosystem in Nigeria. A lot has been discussed about how the commodities market can really grow, but not just grow, add value to the economy. And that's what we'll be looking at today. We have, once again, joining us virtually for this edition, Mr. Akinsola Akeredolu-Ale. He's the Managing Director and Chief Executive of the Lagos Commodities and Futures Exchange to discuss this topic. Good morning and nice to have you on the program.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and happy New Year to you.
Yeah,
All right.
wish you well.
So let's begin with, again, the role or how commodities exchanges can help in diversifying particularly the revenue base of Nigeria, because the economy is already diversified. We've rebased before, and there are even prospects of another rebasing. The National Bureau of Statistics is looking towards that. But look at our revenue base, which has been overly dependent on crude oil. How can the commodities exchange play that role in supporting our diversification of our revenue base?
Thank you very much. First of all, the revenue base for Nigeria is directly linked to the West African economy, and then it's also linked to the African economy and the global economy. So effectively, Nigeria is at the epicenter of the revenue base for West Africa, and indirectly for a better part of Africa. And if you look at our GDP and the GDP of Africa both, you will discover that the better part of our revenues are from export proceeds from commodities. And I think it's very, very important that the commodities ecosystem is put at the forefront of the economy and how to build up the economic base of Nigeria vis-a-vis the West African region and African region, because it's going to have a multiplier effect on our economy at any point in time. Africa is a commodities continent. Nigeria is a commodities country. And at any point in time, a better part of our revenue is still from the commodities space. In some other countries, they focus on the service industry. Some other countries focus on tourism, and some other countries focus on manufacturing. As at date, a better part of Nigeria's revenue still comes from the commodities ecosystem. And for us to be able to harness the potentials of that commodities ecosystem, there needs to be proper structure put in place. I want to thank the federal government so much for all the infrastructure that has been deployed into Nigeria. I think the next level that we're supposed to be going into now is how do we deploy superstructure on the infrastructure that has been deployed into Nigeria. And then we have to look at particularly the super supposed to drive to be able to drive revenue and improve the revenue base of Nigeria. As we speak now, the better part of the revenue that comes into Nigeria comes either from the oil and gas sector, the agriculture sector, or all the other sectors that have to do with commodities. What we're trying to say is that to put efficiency into these processes, to be able to generate more revenue and drive revenue up, drive income up for Nigerians that are from the workspace, drive taxes up for, what I mean by taxes up is drive revenue by way of taxes up for the federal government and revenue directly for the federal government. So the first thing is to first of all put structure that by way of superstructure into the ecosystem so that we'll be able to tap into the potentials of that particular ecosystem. About 2 years ago, there was a conference that spoke about Africa, and it said that Africa had a $1 trillion potential. The $1 trillion potential in Africa is a better focus is on the commodity space, which is the mainstay of most African countries now. So those are one of the few things that we need to do now to be able to drive up the revenue base for Nigeria by focusing first on the commodity space, by deploying superstructure on the existing infrastructure for the commodities ecosystem to thrive.
Okay, so superstructures on existing infrastructure to enable the commodities thrive so that we can achieve a very robust revenue base. Well noted, Mr. Akinsola Akeredolu-Ale. But let's look at regulations. And, you know, like you rightly said, it has to be at the forefront. Commodities has to be at the forefront of the economic drive, revenue drive. But regulations has to play a role in terms of clarity, support, and enabling the environment. What should be the role of regulation in developing the commodities exchange? I would like to look at that. But before you go to that, what's your view? Should we have a standalone regulatory commission for the commodities market? Why I'm asking that is, if you look at the US, the biggest economy in the world, it has the Commodities and Futures Trading Commission, CFTC, where they've already derived the new SEC chairman of the US, nominated by President Joe Biden. He served there several years ago. It was established in 1974. You also have the Forwards Committee in India that also regulates the commodities market. But in the UK, you have the Financial Conduct Authority, like the Securities Exchange Commission in Nigeria, that oversees all markets, including commodities. So, what's your view? I know that it's a pointed question.
The first thing about a very good manager and a very good strategy is simplification of the process. And simplification of process means a clear delineation of roles, whereby people understand their basic roles and they know how to address their basic roles, and they'll be able to drive their basic roles based on their KPI, their performance indicators, and drive it effectively. When you don't have a modeled up arrangement and you don't have what we call over-regulations, then you have a thriving system. For us to start today, we don't have to reinvent any wheel. There is enough rules from CAMA and ISA that supports the fact that the Securities and Exchange Commission is supposed to drive the commodities ecosystem. And that's the structure that we have for now. And it is absolutely enough to be able to drive that ecosystem for now. And the good part of that is because the way our own Securities and Exchange Commission is structured, it covers for all financial instruments and regulates all capital market operators, including the commodities exchanges. And the SEC, which is the commission, by those laws is supposed to coordinate and galvanize those ecosystems, particularly for what we're discussing today, the commodities ecosystem. And the commodity and the regulator SEC has done a very, very good job in doing that. They do the registration of the commodities exchange, they declare them operational by way of effectiveness, and they participate also in surveillance, price, to make sure that there is clear functions, the markets are not rigged, and they promote orderly growth of those markets. They've done all that. And I think if there's a delineation of role whereby there's a proper focus and attention is given to the apex regulator, SEC, because if you go back a while back, we had the SEC 10-year master plan. The 10-year master plan, subsequently, the commission now implemented put together the implementation committee. And they've been implementing the 10-year master plan effectively well. One of the outcomes of the 10-year master plan are the commodities exchanges. Now, that has been simplified and the role has been delineated. And there has been a specific purpose-driven arrangement by the commission in driving this process. And there's been a lot of attention and regulations going on this. They've put rules together, they've put guidelines together, and they've assisted also in promoting these exchanges. So I think we have our own peculiar nature in the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and to take our own steps, we should make sure that we simplify our steps, whereby we don't start going to create complications, whereby we now start creating multiple roles, whereby different units are trying to run the same system. And what that does is create some confusion. So for now, I think the role that SEC is playing and the ISA and CAMA, the way they put it, is very, very good enough for whatever we're doing in the Federal Republic of Nigeria for now for the commodities ecosystem.
Yes. And just to add to that, the issues around collaboration, for example, between SEC and related ministries that also carry out policies that affect the commodities market, like the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Solid Minerals, and even the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Resources. Isn't it effective that this SEC and all these key parastatals ministries work hand in hand to ensure that there's an enabling environment for the commodities exchange?
What we must not forget is that the commodities ecosystem is not a small ecosystem.
Yeah.
And there would definitely be a need for collaboration. the collaboration will take place at different levels based on roles and functions. For example, for primary producers and for inputs into the agricultural space, it's normal for regulation to come from the Ministry of Agriculture and some other people. But when it now comes to the fungibility, transparency, price discovery, continuity of those markets, you have to take it back to the people that are the capital market operators. That is the finance people, the investment bankers, and then the financial institutions that are participating as registered CMOs with the regulator, which is SEC. Those people will now play their own roles too. Yes, there's going to be participation with other institutions apart from Federal Ministry of Agriculture, because, for example, easily, there's no way that you're going to run an effective commodities ecosystem without the insurance company playing a role there. So there has to be collaboration there. There's no way that you're going to run a proper commodities ecosystem without certification agents. You have to collaborate there. We have the Standards Organization of Nigeria that are going to play a role to make sure that the standards are there, the certifications are properly done, and the gradings are done at the early stages when we are looking at the primary input part of it. And of course, when you come to the fungibility and the banking side of it, later for finance to enter into that ecosystem, it's separate entity, separate ecosystem will have to participate. So it's going to be a proper need and collaboration. But even with that proper need and collaboration, there has to be a cohesive approach and coordination from a regulator by SEC to direct the affairs to make sure that ecosystem. And for us to have a structured commodities ecosystem, not commodities trading alone, you have to comply with the rules and regulations and guidelines that are issued on a regular basis by the Securities and Exchange Commission. There are other institutions that will play a role in capital injection, capital support, and a link to the capital market, which is what has been missing since 1960. And I'm very, very happy that SEC is taking this head on and they're taking a heavy lifting to connect the capital markets via commodities ecosystem to the agri space and to the other commodities that are tradable in Nigeria, whereby the revenues can be properly channeled, one, and two, it can be monitored and structured products can be traded for capital raising and to be able to assist people in exiting for people that are participating in that space.
Very, very important. I mean, revenue channeled and monitor the activities. I like the fact you said the need to link the commodities market to the agri space, and you even listed some other relevant agencies that will require effective collaboration. But let's look at the year 2021. This is the second month already, and some of the players in the industry and key stakeholders have highlighted some key things, like the foreign exchange market stability would be a key role, cross-border and trade policies, and even cash liquidity. But for you, what are those key things that will shape the market in 2021?
There are some key things that if you're going to activate any commodities ecosystem and for it to be very, very active and for it to be sustainable subsequently, I mentioned the superstructure. Now, when we speak about superstructure, it means that you're going to have to activate and midwife the whole commodities ecosystem. We are going to go from the certification agents, that the assaying agents, you move to the insurance people, you move to the collateral managers, from the collateral managers, you move to the logistic companies, you look at the rail systems, that the transport system, how would it move things to make goods cheaper, the storage facilities there, the daily member firms that are going to trade on those products, the banks that are going to settle the trades, the depository that's going to take active role in trading and settlement of those tradable instruments. All that has to be in place by way of superstructure. If you move away from the superstructure, then you can move towards the issue of guarantees. It's very, very important that maybe there should be a guarantee or an offtake agreement. Either of the two will assist the primary producers to be able to move better. Now, for you to be able to harness what is inherent in the offtake agreements and the guarantees, you will discover that Nigeria still suffers heavily from what we refer to as post-harvest losses.
Yes.
And the post-harvest losses have been a major problem for farmers and the producers in Nigeria, to the extent that when they produce, and if some of the goods are perishable, after a particular period, if there are no off-takers, some of them lose money, some of them go bankrupt. Some of them cannot come back at the next season. But if they are offtake agreement and their guarantees and are instruments that can offtake, whereby aggregation can be done for those products produced, and the post-harvest losses are limited by way of proper storage, proper preservation, and proper trading and price discovery. And the primary producers can get the right price that's supposed to be for what they're producing, and they can get the full benefit for what they put together. Then you'll be able to create a cycle that will move continuously and will grow. Now, the key thing that the Securities Commission, by setting up the Commodities Exchange, would also be doing, I'm not holding brief for a sec, I'm just saying that part of the function is the issue of the funding gaps. There has to be fungibility of tradable instruments, whereby if those instruments are transparent and that they are tradable, then the banking sector, the agri sector is underbanked. Only 5% of the balance sheet goes into agriculture. The banks should be more comfortable to participate in that ecosystem. To do that, the structures have to be put in place by way of fungible instruments. Then the other thing that needs to be discussed is the issue of the private sector participation. The private sector participation is very, very key to the growth of that commodities ecosystem, because that's when you'll be able to have knowledge transfer, technology transfer. You'll be able to see people that put heavy investment into heavy equipment leads, human capacity development. And then there are some very, very good infrastructure by way of soft infrastructure and agreements that the federal government has also put in place that we can take advantage of in the commodities ecosystem. You have the AGOA Act there. Yeah. You have the Africa Free Trade Charter there for us to be able to trade intra-Africa there. And there's so many other Pan-African opportunities that if we structure our market very well, we'll be able to move into. So the guarantees are very key. And Nigeria is one of the few countries in Africa that has the capacity to mobilize capital to support this ecosystem. To the extent that if you support this ecosystem and the farmers, the producers of commodities in Nigeria participate in the ecosystem, then the ecosystem will be able to go. So guarantee is very important, or the offtake agreement. Guarantee can be a way of guarantee, and it can be a way of instruments that can offtake and make sure that the farmers can quickly sell and go back to the market. Once we're discussing it, I want to try and quickly pass on one information from them, our own point, the Lagos Commodities and Futures Exchange. Our focus has been on agriculture in this discussion. It does not mean that the commodities ecosystem is about agriculture alone. Yeah, the commodities ecosystem, you can look at commodities, the solid minerals, oil and gas, and other spaces. Yes. So, but our focus on agriculture for now, for simplicity, for us to be able to have this proper discussion.
Definitely, definitely. You talked about private participation, which is very key. So that's why we're now going to our next point, which is the LCFE. I mean, people are also playing in the space. We have other players in the industry. So when is LCFE going to go live? I mean, our last conversation, we look at first quarter 2021. Is that still in line?
Yes. You see, one of the things that I would like to say about Lagos Commodities and Futures Exchange is the fact that the board and the management of Lagos Commodities and Futures Exchange, we have a clear vision of what we want to do in the commodities ecosystem. And we have made it very clear to everybody from the beginning, from the outset, that Lagos Commodities and Futures Exchange is not a commodity trader. We are not here to lease warehouses, rent warehouses, buy warehouses, buy goods into it, and sell goods out of it. No, we're a commodities exchange. A commodity and a willing seller can come and participate. And what we have done is we have deployed technology to enable those type of trades to take place. So effectively, is a digitalized and dematerialized instruments that are going to be traded on the electronic. We have engaged with so many people in this in the ecosystem, from particularly the depository. We have an agreement with the Central Securities Clearing System to do our trade settlements. We have 2 settlement banks. We have transaction advisors that have been trained and are still going through trainings. We have 37 daily member firms. We have registered stockbrokers, and that are going to be trading in commodities in the commodities ecosystem. Those are things that are almost like the superstructure that we're deploying into the commodities ecosystem. We have accredited collateral managers. we have certification agents, because the integrity of the instrument that's going to be traded on the platform is very, very key for it to be fungible. So effectively, before the instruments come for trading on the exchange, they will have been certified by the various people in the ecosystem. By the time it gets into the ecosystem, for it to be traded, that's in our own, on our own exchange, it will transit and now become what we call the LERQ. The LERQ for us is the Lagos Commodities and Futures Exchange Electronic Receipts Quotation. That is what's tradable. Now, for us to put all this together and to do the heavy lifting, it's taking us 2 years to put this together. And we have staved away from the temptations of having to become someone buying goods into the warehouse and selling goods from the warehouse. That's commodities. And when you even do that, what happens is that there won't be any control because you're the person buying, you're the person selling. So we have built up the ecosystem. And then effectively, the last part of the thing that we needed to do, we got the first one last year. That was the rules of the exchange, which is going to govern the trading. The Securities and Exchange Commission approved our rules last year, late last year. And we're very, very happy and grateful about that. The Securities and Exchange Commission has approved 13 agri commodities that are tradable based on specification. We're waiting for them to give us our full approval so that the first solid mineral commodity can be traded, which is gold, will be tradable on that on our exchange. We have put together about 5 or 6 different commodity-based instruments that are tradable on the exchange, which we refer to as the exchange-traded notes. Those exchange-traded notes are going to be coming in. The transaction advisors, which are the equivalent of the issuing houses, are going to be issuing some very soon for the ones that have qualified after passing through what we call the proof of concepts. And then we'll start the trading. So effectively, for formal trading to start, which is electronic trades, whereby electronic instruments are traded on the exchange, and it goes through the whole process from a buyer to a seller via a broker. It's a broker that has done KYC and all that. It goes into the CSD, it passes through NIBS and settles bank. That is a process that which a commodity is, not a trade sell. If it's to buy and sell, nobody needs the approval of the commission to do that. People do that all over Nigeria. So 1st of March is the date that we're looking at, whereby people will start trading. It might not be too heavy.
All right, that's fair enough. At least we now know that things are going to begin, and it's interesting. As we begin to wrap up, let's look at the policy initiatives again that can really support what's happening. I know you've mentioned superstructure. There are some legislations that could also help, like, for example, the warehouse receipt bill. You also joining in the advocacy to see that such legislations are passed quickly. What other legislations and policy directive can help to unlock the potentials of the Commodities Exchange?
Like I said earlier, the best strategies in anything, in approach to anything, is simplification of the process to get to where you want. Currently, what we have in ISA and CAMA covers us enough on the issue of warehouse and receipts issuance for the process for commodities trading to start. And the Securities and Exchange Commission has reiterated that will suffice enough for us to start now, so that we don't bog ourselves down with delays on things that are already in place. If we look at the structure and the approvals that we have in CAMA to be able to work with. Yes, if the warehouse bill is approved subsequently, it will enhance more the processes of being able to trade globally and nationally here. But currently, with the SEC as the Securities and Exchange Commission as a regulator, I think it will suffice based on CAMA and ISA for us to work with. And those particular rules gives full powers for SEC to be able to register commodities exchanges, regulate them, and for the exchanges also to regulate warehouse receipts until the full bill is out, which I know is being worked on now. That is one of the things that we'll appreciate that is done. But by way of starting a journey of 1,000 miles and simplification, I think the market is good and ready enough based on what the regulator has given by way of guidelines and regulations. That is the Securities and Exchange Commission.
All right. So in terms of your final words going forward, what do you see happening? What's your parting words in terms of the exchange? A lot has happened.
The final words on what the things that is happening in the commodities ecosystem. I would like to just say that Nigeria as a country is at the epicenter of a big ecosystem called Africa. And so like some of the biggest commodity traders in Africa that they have turnover running into billions of dollars are based in some foreign countries in Europe. And some of them, up to 50% of the physical commodities that are traded from Africa. Some of them from Nigeria, including our crude oil in Nigeria. Now, one of the things that I still am advocating for is that, which we're working on already, is for our crude oil to be traded on our platform. The instruments are ready. We've gone past proof of concept so that Nigerians, also the local producers, and probably maybe in the future the federal government can list these crude instruments on the platform and can be traded on the platform. That is one. Then two, the issue of ratification for every, even the Federal Republic of Nigeria, for everyone, any commodity that's going out of Nigeria should be ratified on a commodities exchange, for that it should be crossed on an exchange before it leaves the country. That will leave space for us to have data and control and to be able to understand the markets better and for planning purposes. The third one is we require a risk-based fund that can support the commodities ecosystem. We are working on that already too, whereby that fund will be able to support and create offtake agreements and guarantees for people that want to participate in that space. And we must not forget that for us to be able to grow very well, we have to inject structure by way of a structured commodities exchange, which is what Lagos Commodities and Futures Exchanges and is what we're about. We have 50 shareholders. 42 of the shareholders are daily member firms, they're stockbroking firms that have the base of what we call the minimum operating standards. We are working with best practice, best governance structure, best risk management structure in place, and we are connecting our activities to the best possible structure that's working globally by passing through a central depository, through a settlement bank, and whereby people's transaction plus 3 days can be settled, and products, by way of commodities, can be delivered also, or delivery can be taken on the 3rd day. By the time we get this, it's banks to want to participate in the ecosystem where they know that the instruments being issued are fungible. The more capital will gravitate towards the commodities ecosystem when there is a structured commodities exchange. And that's what we're trying to build, a superstructure on the current infrastructure that's in Nigeria. Nobody should say that we don't have enough warehouses in Nigeria. We have enough warehouses in Nigeria. We have export zones, free trade zones in Nigeria. We have export terminals in Nigeria. We have ports in Nigeria. We have the human capital in Nigeria. We have the goods in Nigeria. We have deposits of solid minerals and other minerals in Nigeria. The only thing we need to do is either we grow it or we mine it. And it will require some injection of capital. And that is part of what we're doing in the Lagos Commodities and Futures Exchange, to be able to mobilize capital towards all these sectors so that there can be growth there. As long as those sectors in the commodities ecosystem are starved with capital, they will start and stop. And those are the gaps that we need to bridge and make sure that those nexus are closed very well, so that the issues of gap funding are properly taken care of, fungibility is taken care of, technology is taken care of, and the delivery and the integrity of the products is monitored by way of quality and specification.
Thank you very much, Mr. Akinsola Akeredolu-Ale, MD of Lagos Commodities and Futures Exchange, for telling us how important it is to have a structured commodities exchange, and looking forward to your formal trade, March 1st, 2021, and also the fact that you want to link commodities to the market and, of course, to other sectors of the economy. Because, like you said, Africa is a commodities market, Nigeria is the epicenter. It is time for us to derive value, revenue, and also tie that to productivity, create employment opportunities, and address the issue of poverty. Thank you once again for the time, and we look forward to discussing further developments in the ecosystem with you in subsequent editions. That will be all for the market review show today. You can join our website, www.proshng.com, to read articles and stories and even get further insights on what's happening in the commodity space. When you log onto our website, go to the right-hand side of the bar and click on commodities. When you click on it, you'll see all the developments in the market across the entire ecosystem and what is really shaping it. Also, you can send your views and comments about the commodities exchange market and what can make it thrive and scale in the country. Send your views and comments to news@proshareng.com, and we'll be glad to receive them and respond appropriately to you. Till we come your way again, thank you for watching. Have a nice day and stay safe.